All right, greetings and salutations. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I managed to mess up my feel like my supposed to be indestructible, crappy pharmacy glasses. I'm not sure what I did. So if they are sitting oddly on my face, that's because I don't know, something happened. I need to get a new pair. I actually need to get a new pair of real glasses, but that's besides the point. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is part 2 of our Let's Build a Warlock PC class. Let me go ahead. I don't have any particular programming notes, so I'm just going to go ahead and share. I'm doing this in Notion, and you can see the Notion. So I did kind of neaten some things up here. What I did was I took the this is the turn undead table here, what I'm calling the casting table. Turning undead table, but I've made it's relative now. So when you're casting something equal to your spell, you have to roll 7. You can try to cast 2 levels up. Hey, Fluffy the Griffin, you are on time this time. Absolutely. Welcome. Glad you made it. So you've taken that and made it relative. So if you try to cast, and again, I'm all about risk reward and trying to do stuff. So I like to say, hey, look, you want to take your chances and try to cast something higher level than you? You can, but it's harder. You can even try to cast something 2 levels higher than you. It's harder still, but of course, as things, you go up in level, I would say that you can't roll lower than a 3, or 3 is the minimum. So if you're a 10th level warlock and you want to cast a first level spell, it's going to be a 3. It's not going to get to 0 or somehow negative. But if as soon as you become second level, suddenly first level spells are easy to cast, and then so on and so forth up the chain. So there's that casting table. Notion's got this funky, the way they do these scroll bars is kind of weird, but there you go. There's that. Then I just, not finalized, but we just wanted to start thinking about how much spells cost. I think I was going from the cleric spell list that I think in BX only goes up to level 6 in expert, so I'm going to cap them at level 6 as well. Soft cap we could talk about if we want to go higher up than that. What I thought is, here's their normal cost. I'd like to do things that are easy to figure out. So I think it might have actually, and now I'm thinking about it, maybe make more sense these be 3 times the cost. And you'll notice here, I have a normal cost and a minimum cost, which I'm going to get to in a minute. But now that I'm thinking this, maybe this should be higher. Maybe I'll go 3 times the level. And the reason being, it's really 12. And something like this. You'll see I got this minimum cost, and these are just rough right now. Is because given what I like to do, right? Part of that risk reward is you can try to mitigate your casting times, your casting costs rather. So I have this concept of basically there being 2 sorts of rituals. One, you can ritually cast stuff, and I just have these in here as kind of placeholders. So if you want to spend a, it's I don't know, spend something in the moment. Maybe you're in combat, you want someone to spend it. You pretty much have to go with what the normal cost is, right? If you're trying to something that's you don't mind waiting, you can you could try to reduce that cost. Oh, Fluff the Grim asks, what's the payment? So we were talking about in part 1 that it's a tribute loss, and I was thinking charisma, so that you are spending charisma to cast spells, and when you get down to, if you happen to get down to 0 charisma, essentially at that point you were looked at as some kind of abomination that's basically the most negative reactions possible, essentially violence from anyone who sees you. So you get down to 0, it's like you have such a negative aura, whatever it is so bad, however you want to call it, physical appearance, your power of personality. It's so damaged that you look at anything just looks at you, they just want to beat you with a stick until you either die or leave their sight, which I think is a pretty good penalty for having 0 charisma. So it's not going to kill you, but it's going to make you essentially impossible to be around. You're not going to be able to go in any towns. No one's going to want to be around you at all. Any hirelings you're with are going to turn on you. Creatures, anybody you meet out in the wilderness, unless you surprise them and you can get away, they're coming after you. So your options become extremely limited until you can somehow get some of your recovery back. So keeping that in mind, we're going to have a ritual for recovery, and I wanted to, and I have it in weeks. The reason why I want weeks is I want it to be something, or at least my idea. Of course, folks can chime in. The thing is, I want it to be something that you have to invest in. It could be something easy to do in the dungeon. This is something that, in part of differentiating how this warlock will work from how a wizard will work, is that the wizard has, at least starting out, a very small resource, but every day they're going to get it back. So you have your 1 level 1 spell for a day, but the next day you get another one, next day you get another one, next day you get another one. The warlock, you're given this larger resource pool, assuming you rolled better than average, or at least average for your charisma, right? You're going to have 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 charisma. And you go, wow, that's a lot, right? I'm going to be a casting fool. But once you lose that, you're not getting it back. Oh, I'm just going to rest and read my book, and then I get charisma back. Wrong answer. It's gone until you specifically do something to try to get it back. And that doing something is going to cost you a week. So if there's any kind of time crunch, there's anything going on, you're out of action for a week. And we could even think of it, should it be longer than a week? But it has to be something, I think, that where you have to think about, okay, we're going to have to plan in the fact that I'm going to get down low on resources, and then I need to have essentially downtime, try to get back. Although the Grim says, that's pretty amazing, selling your very soul. Yeah, kind of. I mean, that's what you're doing, right? Is you're dealing in your essence. And now when we think about, well, how do you get your essence back? You have this ritual. And now people had mentioned in the last one, like, it seems like it'd be great for evil, or there should be a darkness there. Well, here's where I'm kind of pulling in some of that darkness, both with the casting cost mitigations and these recovery rituals. If you're gonna spend an hour on a ritual, that will reduce your cost. And maybe we can fiddle around with the numbers to see what works. That can reduce your cost. If you have this ritual and you are going to sacrifice living creatures, well, you can reduce your cost even further. And of course, you can also spend treasure, right? A treasure to sacrifice it. But by sacrificing, you're giving it up, right? And we can decide whether this should be before or after you get XP. Right, get your XP for that treasure, which makes it interesting. So if I guess I would say, whatever sacrificed, maybe you don't, or depending on in your game, right? So if you do this out in the wilderness before you've gotten your treasure back to town, then you wouldn't get value for it. So it makes it even more incumbent upon you to pick your spot, right? You want to get, if your need is great and you're thinking like, boy, we're sitting on some loot and I need to blow some of this loot to get some of my charisma back, but we haven't gotten it back to town. Well, you're not going to get XP for that. So figure out, you may need to get back to town. So I guess it's pretty interesting. And then just going back up here, I think I already covered that, right? So we're looking at essentially 6 levels. So I guess I can check these off. And then, so then another idea was, would we allow someone to give up their constitution to regenerate their charisma? Which is really that, right? So this thing that you can, if you're in great need, because here's what I could see happening. Potentially, you need to do something, or you have something that's really awesome moment, or you're just a great need, like something about to kill you, but you could try to do this thing, but you're blowing way over your head, and you don't have that much charisma. You're gonna roll some dice, and you lose all your charisma. Now you're down to 0 charisma. You're this horrible thing, and he's just going to attack you. Well, what is your last ditch method to try to get some charisma back, just so you could get to town, just so you could crawl over into a hole and just not have everything kill you? Maybe allow you to legitimately give up some of your permanent constitution to regain your charisma. And so that I think is an interesting wrinkle. Might be something you would only do at great need. Give up. I mean, because giving up your permanent constitution is pretty could be pretty rough. But if your need is great, maybe you would be able. Maybe you'd want to do that. So I kind of like that as an option. I'm not sure how much. Not sure how much it would be. Let's see. I'm just going to type it as a sentence. A warlock may sacrifice. I want it to be someone that's kind of visual, so I'm thinking maybe 2 to 1, which seems kind of cruel, but at the same time, you only need 1 charisma ultimately. 1 charisma means that things are probably going to want to kill you anyway, but they're not automatically. You're at 0, they're after you. 1 charisma, you've got a fighting chance. 2 permanent points of constitution to regain 1 point of charisma. And we can flip those. If we really feel like that's too much, we could flip it around. I mean, because constitution, you're not going to get that coming back. Maybe we should say 1 for 2. I'll do that. I'll do 2 points. Maybe something like that. Let's see. Lincoln says, had a warlock in 5th edition that would sacrifice magic items and sometimes get rewards for doing so. It was all very DM fiat. One time he was granted a ritual, let him burn max HP to recover spell slot. That's interesting. And then, hey, VO Lizard, welcome, says, even trade for the temp charisma loss. Yeah, something like that. So maybe 2 points. That way, if you're at 0, it lets you do something. I don't know. We can futz. We could futz around that number. Yeah, I like the idea of the sacrificing things. I think when it's dealing with classes and really with most things, I try to minimize the DM fiat factor because there's so much DM fiat in the game anyway. I mean, everything outside a certain point is DM fiat. So the extent that I can have these things not be, I try to, which is why I'd rather just say, even though it might seem, you could talk about, well, I'm sacrificing creatures, but some creatures of 1 HD you think are worth more than some creatures, other 1 HD creatures. But I'm not going to have it be, the GM's going to, the GM can always decide anyway, but, I just want to make it flat, right? So I'd rather just use however value, or I guess I should call it GP per 1,000, or it does per 1,000 XP. Maybe that works too. I don't know. One of the games says permanent scars for a blood sacrifice to restore your humanity. Yeah, it's and the other thing is about this is I'm not trying to say. I think I don't want to say it's a trap, but maybe it is. I think one of the traps you fall into when designing classes is to try to make the class for everybody. I want to make this class a class everybody's going to want to play. I don't care about that. I'm creating something that I think is interesting, that someone may look at as interesting and saying, ooh, I want to try that. If 3 other people look at it and say, oh man, this is not for me because I don't want to have to deal with these things, that's fine. That's fine. We can look at it on the one hand and say, man, it's a tough road. It's a tough road for this. You're being kind of encouraged to ritually sacrifice things, potentially living creatures. We could even put in other ones, perhaps ones that are tied to specific patrons, right? We could have that. On the one hand, you are going to be able to potentially cast a bunch of lower level spells, and you could mitigate them to some degree. Though not, you're always going to have some cost and do that. At the same time, you're going to, once you get down into the lower end of your charisma pool, it's going to be rougher. So that's the kind of exchange that we're making here. Elfbase says, I think a lot of OSR classes are built that way. They're not for everyone. They are more reflections of specific styles of play. Yep. Yeah, I think, and I think that's good. I find in 5th edition, I think they the way people look at those things, like every class has got to be great for everybody. So every class has to stack up absolutely to everyone else. I don't care if somebody reads this and says, well, I would never play this instead of a magic user. Okay, that's fine. I'm fine if it's rare and only one weird, twisted player comes in and says, ooh, I want to try this. Like, great. Like, my whole thing is somebody wants to try it. Doesn't have to be everybody. If nobody wants to try it and they're like, yeah, that's new, then I would look at it. But as long as some people want to try it, that's all I care about. It doesn't have to be the best option. None of things says, I would make the sacrifice need to be intelligent or aligned or something so people can't just buy a goat. Oh, that's a good thing. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Though, people do animal sacrifices, right? Maybe I'm okay with it, because you know what? I agree with you, nothing. It seems better. It would seem like intelligent. Maybe I'll put, here we go. I'll do something like this. Non-intelligent. I spell today. I want to duplicate that. And then I'm going to make this, because I think there is something to be said for doing that, but you're going to have less, right? And then for living creatures, say, I don't know, maybe times 3 is better. Something like that. None of things says, I think animal sacrifice is more of a cleric thing. Well, yeah, but the D&D clerics, right, the OSR clerics don't tend to have that. So giving it to the warlock that they can do that, I'm okay with. But they're going to be limited. So a first level cleric can only make do with one. They can only sacrifice one thing. Plus, they still have to go get the goat, and they still have to find a place to do it. And you can imagine the stigma on what there probably would be for sacrificing anything. Be interesting. Flipping the Ground says, yes, I hate that. I actually had to go through that with my group with class approachability. One player thinks my mages are awful, while 2 other thinks they're a blast. Yeah. I mean, it's very often what you get. And that's why you see the constant back and forth on different things in 5th edition, where people will say, oh, I'd never play that. Oh, I would play that. It's, as long as somebody's going to play it. A good example, everybody says, is the AD&D Paladin. A lot of people I know hated playing them because of the lawful good and giving away treasure stuff. Yeah, I mean, I had fun playing an AD&D Paladin. I guess technically it was an Osric Paladin, but I had a lot of fun playing it. Unfortunately, I didn't get far enough the campaign, as most things do. Didn't get along enough to really have to deal with the treasure thing. But I thought one of the interesting things when trying to play the Paladin was avoiding the lawful stupid thing, right? Coming up with ways that you can be lawful good. And I do think that it should be part of your character expression, but I think there are many ways to express it. There's a lot of room between the, well, I'm just going to pay lip service to it and then do nothing, and the, I have to hold everyone's feet to the lawful good fire all the time, constantly. And trying to find that, coming up with, what does that story look like? I have a character whose ultimate goal is to move people in the lawful good direction, but this character understands that this is this salvation of theirs so they can go to the place of lawful goodness is a long-term design, is a long-term effort. I'm not going to solve it by browbeating them every day. I'm just going to try to work on them and help them along. And part of doing that is by showing them that you can do things the right way and it's effective. So part of that to me is, how can I be very effective in using these tools that my God has given me, so that I could show people that, hey, you're not behind the 8 ball, right? You're not losing out because you're not or because you are lawful good. You could be lawful good and still be efficient, effective, and everything else. All right. So we need some patron examples / templates, I think. So let's get started with one. All right. I guess I'll do another. Should I do another table? I don't like the tables. Okay, so patrons. I'm just gonna call one Cthulhu because why not? Let's see. I'm just gonna make some things in here. So I'm one of the things I want to do is one of the drawbacks to being a warlock as opposed to a wizard. Hey Don, glad that you're back. Is that your spell list is more constrained. You don't get the full. I'm going to assume you can use scrolls. I guess I'll put this. Where should I put this? I guess I'll just. But you can't learn spells from scrolls or spell books. Just say can't learn, and I guess I should say can cast from scrolls, spell books. Right, they are, yes, alphabet, correct. They are granted spells, right? So they can, and maybe I have to amend this about what they can do from scrolls or spell books, because there's obviously the read magic. Maybe they would get that. It might not even be a big deal as a warlock. Do you really need to know magic? You might not. Right? You might not. You might not need to at all. Let's see. Your spells are coming from a whole different realm. I'll leave this tags alone. I don't know if I'll do anything with that. Let me see. How can I? Do I have a? I have this. I got this somewhere. Let me. I could pull it up again. It's called the Short Concise Spell List. Let me see if I can grab the link really quick. It's kind of handy. See if I can find this. Is this it? Let's see. Yes, this was it. So this is actually, it's really old. I'm going to post this in the chat. So I found this. I don't know if it's technically, I don't think it's technically Creative Commons or anything. I think it's just is. So I might have to switch it up if I ever release this somewhere. But I'll just put I'll put this link in the chat so you can see the how you spell concise. So let's see. Linkian says terrible idea, but it'd be neat if they had to roll to see what spells they were granted that day. Yeah, I don't want it to be super random, right? Because that's kind of I feel like that's sort of throwing them, because they don't really have much else, right? I'm not giving them much else. I'm not giving them armor, really. I'm not giving them fancy weapons. I'm just, they just have spells. So if they ended up with some really weird spell list, then are you just making it it's kind of like that, that it sucks to be a first level wizard and your one spell is like comprehend languages. Yes, there is that edge case, that one moment that we're having comprehend languages. It's going to be super useful, but most of the time you're just going to be sitting on your one spell and not even be able to use it, even just for giggles. And then you're just waiting until either you find a scroll or you go up a level. And that's kind of not that great, right? So I'd rather they have a choice, but I also think on the flip side, I don't feel like every spell that has to be some kind of this is the best spell ever. I'm going to really lean into the thematicness. So I'm thinking of Cthulhu. It's going to be kind of madness and I don't know, things like that. Whatever, and not I'm giving them fireball because I want to make sure they have an offensive spell. Like maybe Cthulhu warlocks don't have offensive spells like that. Maybe they've got something else. So I'll give them, all right, so first level spells for Cthulhu. Whoops, wrong thing. Where am I going? There we go. Oops. So I'm using that shortcut size spell list. Basically, they have a kind of a bless. The opposite of bless, is Bane. So I'm giving them Bane. And I'm not sure how many of each level. I'm going to kind of play it by ear, at least to start. And then we can come back. So I don't know how many. Should I give them Detect Magic? I feel like Detect Magic is probably a nice one to have. I'll give them Detect Magic. Maybe that'll be it for level 1. Or Detect Undead. I don't know. Does Cthulhu seem like undead? There's also Obscuring Mist. Might be kind of cool. Sanctuary. Let's see. We've got maybe Obscuring Mist. So I'll give them Detect Magic and Obscuring Mist. How's that sound? And of course, I'm going to feel very free to do these. I don't have a sense yet of how much they should get. Maybe they should have very few. Maybe it should be pick one. And they could then have that one for the day. That might be an interesting element too. Let me make a note. Maybe that's it. They can kind of pick one of those. Oops, I don't need that. Interesting idea. So that's level 1. Then level 2, let's see. What kind of things we have here? We've got, I'm looking at cleric spells too. I should probably go to magic user spells. Where's my magic user at? Cleric. I might have to change these. I know there's some overlap, but let me go to wizard. Yeah, we got Detect Magic. That's fine. Oh, Dancing Light seems very... I like the elf faces. I like the idea of them not cycling for the day. They have magic, but they really have to pick and choose and never really challenge the flexibility of other classes in terms of choice. Yeah, I think that's solid. All right, so we'll say they have to pick one of each one. So I'll say the first time that they use it. Cause Fear would be a good first level spell. Yeah, for like a Cthulhu type. Yeah. All right. Let me backtrack here. Let me get rid. I'll do. Cause Fear is good. Is that first level? Probably is. Good enough. Cause Fear, and I like Dancing Lights is kind of funny because it plays on that was it the color without a shape kind of thing. So I'll give them Dancing Lights. Let's go to level 2. And I'm definitely okay with at level 6. They might not have a ton of spells. They may only have one. They might just have one spell. Let's get down to kind of things. And like I said, and I'm also fine with them not having like, oh, they've got to have like an Eldritch Blast type spell. It's like, no, they don't. They can be all about other things. In fact, in going back to the old Sinbad movies and stuff, they really didn't have much of a pew pew magic kind of thing. Oh, Fluffy the Grim says you have Cthulhu in their pantheon, and a tailored spell is for priests too. Oh, that's nice. I have one of the old D&Ds and Demigods that still has Cthulhu in it. I should pull it out at some point and take a look. Should they get Alter Self? Does that seem Cthulhu? Nah, Sleep. Sleep actually seems Cthulhu-ish. Or he's more about waking up from sleep. Oh, Detect Thoughts? That's a good one. That is good. Very much. Oh, let's see. Fog Cloud might be good. They have Cause Fear basically as second level. That's fine. I'm not sure. I'll give him Fog Cloud. Level 3. And this is the kind of thing that I'll go back and forth and do, a bazillion different times. Level 3, Darkness. Where do they? Oh, they have Darkness as level 2. I could see Darkness. I'll put that in the level 2 slot because it's level 2 on this Concise spell list. That's solid. Solid. Let's see. Fluffy the Griffin says they have the first edition pre-spell compendium set, and I spent a couple days going through the books and recording down spells for every deity. Oh, that's really cool. That's a great idea. I mean, it's a time consuming, but great. But once you get it's kind of that nice thing, right? Once you've done that initial work, then you have this thing you can go back to over and over again. See, we got Clairaudience, Clairvoyance. I'll give that to them. That seems like something kind of Cthulhu-ish. There. You. Oh, 2E. Okay, not 1E. That's either way. Yeah, no, they're not all that different. But yeah, that's the second edition had all those compendiums, which were both wonderful, but then also too much after a while. Ooh, Hallucinatory Terrain. That sounds Cthulhu-like, right? I mean, you can't beat Hallucinatory Terrain. I'm spelling that. How am I spelling it? Thank you. Don't let the players get a hold of those books. Yeah, they will want it all. Yes, I mean, that is the thing. I mean, I remember as a player, I was buying a bunch of those books I mean, because they seem very player facing, right? But then once you have, I mean, I guess it's the same thing with every generation of games. All those splat books start to come out, and players get all the splat books, and then they want stuff in the splat books, and that's great. But at the same time, especially when things get kind of crazy, and I don't know. Ultimately, I don't know if anyone's done a study how exactly the power curve and some of the splat books turned out for second edition, but certainly I felt that with third edition, and I'm certain in fifth edition, not so much the official stuff, but all the stuff that's kind of semi-official, the DM's Guild stuff. It just becomes hard to figure out which stuff is designed well and which stuff is just problems waiting to happen. Oh, suggestion and tongues. Those are good. Splato books. I think we used to call them splat books. All those source books, call them splats. Splat books. Maybe it's an antiquated term. Oh, Feeble Mind level 5. That's for sure. Let me go add some of these in here before I forget. So we got. And the other thing is their level. One of the things I'm also thinking of here. I'll just put Feeble Mind here. I don't have to match up necessarily the level of the spell with what is considered level for them. So, for example, if I wanted to, I could say I really want to have a certain spell in there, but for the Warlock, it costs them a level 5, even though for a Wizard, it's level 3, right? I'm kind of using the levels as a rough guide now, but that's another way we can balance them. If we want them to have it, we can give it to them, but maybe it's a bit more expensive. On the other hand, if we feel like one is really flavorful and we want them to have it, but it's, say, usually level 2, well, we could give it to them as level 1. Though I'm more inclined to adjust upwards than downwards. Stinking Cloud. Scrying at level 4. Got in there. Where was Stinking Cloud? That might be a good one. Duo Dimension. Is that a spell in here? Duo Dimension? I don't even know. Cone of Cold, Faithful Hound. Feeble Mind's good. Stinking Cloud, Cloud Kill. I don't know. Does it? I really like the. Trying to see what more kind of madness. Oh, that's level 7. Okay. Stinking Cloud's 3 souls, whole person. Either would be good. Yeah, I'll give him Stinking Cloud. The whole person kind of fits too. Ooh, what to do? What to do? I'll go with. I'll go with whole person. I'll go with whole person right now. Magic jar, yeah. I might be going. What level is magic jar? Usually. Let me see if I have my. Is that in the expert set? If I go to BX spells, is magic jar there? Let's see. Does magic jar show up? It's 5 in BX. Oh, there it is. Yep, you are correct, sir. Let me just read what it. Let's see. Yeah, I'll give the magic jar. That's a good one. Me likey, me likey. Thank you, Flip the Griffin. I'd actually forgotten the origin. As he says, Splat Book comes from back when they were custom tailored to specific class/race. They were called asterisk books, the asterisk being a wild card, which looks like a splat. Yeah. Yeah, because you had, the complete this, the complete that, complete whatever, the book of arms, the book of legs. It just became a lot to manage after a while. A lot to manage after a while. Yeah, what level's Gaius? I just want to keep things because that is a good one too. Got too many stuff open. Gaius is level 6. Yeah, that might be maybe I'll give them one other choice at level 6. I don't want them to have like a super amount of stuff at level 6, but yeah, Gaius definitely feels like one that they ought to have. What else is? Let's see. We've got death, disintegrate, invisible stalker. Invisible stalker kind of. That sounds good. Lower water, move earth, part water, projected image, reincarnation, stone to flesh. Invisible stalker. Though projected image. I wonder how. Well, I gotta read. That seems like it could be kind of cool too. Projected image or invisible stalker. What do you think? Projected image or invisible stalker? Stone to flesh, maybe flesh to stone. That's a good one too. But we got multiple patrons here, and I can't give everything to Cthulhu. So which seems more Cthulhu-esque in terms of kind of just people succumbing to madness and things that seem insane. I mean, it doesn't have to all be madness, right? But if we think about, I kind of like the Invisible Stalker in that one, just because it's something that I could see. It's kind of a long range. I kind of like the idea that this Cthulhu, he's not somebody who, or if you're a Cthulhu, if Cthulhu is your patron, you're not casting stuff in the battle. You got to be more long term thinking, long term kind of planning. Fluffy the Griffin says, I don't know what book you're working from. I have this concise spell list, and I'm also now looking in the expert book. So the concise spell list, I put a link to it up in the chat because it's kind of free for all, but also looking at the expert set from BX. I think I'm going to go with Invisible Stalker. Of course, these will probably change multiple times, and you, of course, can replace these with whatever you like. But Invisible Stalker. All right, so now let's come up with. So we've got a selection, and we can edit those to our heart's content at some point. But that's a good starting line. Like it says, lower water to reveal your patron. Yeah, that would be good. I don't know how much water would you have to lower. Where is he in what the one story is? He's at the bottom of the Pacific, something like that. So let's. I'm just gonna put a catch-all. I mean, kind of Cthulhu's a catch-all, and then we have sort of a demon. What would we call a I don't know, infernal entity. Well, that's a lot of. Hey, Hayden, didn't get to comment the thoughts before we started part 2. Well, feel free to share them. Anyway, Hayden, here, there, anywhere. Wow, Linky says that's a lot. Yeah, 10,000 square feet. I guess not an ocean, but that's still seems like a lot. Ferdinand Metzger says a fiend. Yeah, I guess I could put /fiend, right? I'm not particularly interested because I want to keep this as kind of So I'm not super interested in it being whether it's a lawful evil or chaotic evil if you're playing with the 9-pointed spectrum, right? I don't care about the demon versus devil thing in particular. But yeah, for this patron, and I'm going to be using, to keep things simple now that I've found it, my PDF of the expert edition. I'm just going to use the expert edition to go back in and look at spells. Maybe for this fiend, we can look at some of the cleric spells that are evil. So we can do something like, okay, we can give them protection from, we'll call it protection from law. The first level spell. Flavor the Gurun says, my Cthulhu priest gets summon abominations, cause insanity, dispel law / chaos, and black tentacles at level 5. Ooh, what's black tentacles? That sounds cool. Sounds very cool indeed. Resist fire? Oh, that's a second. That might be good. I mean, I guess I could say resist fire would be kind of cool if we're doing from sort of a fires of hell, but I don't necessarily want to go down that. I want to be a little bit broader than that. Let's see, what else do we have as far as first level? Protection from good, they got that. Charm person, would we find, I guess as a fiend, charm person would be kind of a, though I don't know if I want to take care with charm person, because it lasts a long time. So giving access to multiple charm persons might be a little bit tough. I'll give them, maybe should I give them detect magic? Do we feel like a fiend? Detect magic? Burning hands? Yeah, burning hands is one that would probably work. Yeah, I mean, it's good to, I'm not necessarily want to shy away from giving them kind of combat. I guess if burning hands is there would anybody ever take protection from law over burning hands? Probably not, but that's okay. I'll put it, let's see, we want some kind of archfey right in there. Start thinking, whoops. Maybe I give them charm person. Maybe I would maybe speak with animals. I think that's a first level kind of spell. I think. Just thinking ahead. Oh, it's second level. I'll move it to second level. Okay, it's a second level spell. All right, so we need some level 2 spells. Oh, entangle. That's a good one. All right, so for our fiend, our infernal deity, we need some second and higher, and we can see. And other than the archfey, is there any anything else? Any other? What's the other like a 5th edition template? There's like a pit fiend. There's kind of your Cthulhu type. There's archfey. Is there something else? Do they have another one? I forget. All right, so for second level, we've got Continual Light Detect Evil, Detect Invisible, ESP, Invisibility, Knock, Wizard Lock, Web, Phantasmal Force, Mirror Image, Locate Object, Levitate. I don't know. Undead or genies is that for another patron? That's not a bad idea. Oh, okay. Oh, the black tentacles. It's a reskin of ebony tendrils. A black flower sprouts from the ground with tendril vines that grapple people with acid damage and pull them into the flower. Flower's touch causes a save versus death when touched. Ooh. I like it. Creepy. Where is that original spell from? Where's Ebony Tendrils from? Is that from that? I guess from that 2E. I might have to get a hold of that 2E spell compendium. Let's see. So do we want some kind of Djinn? And then undead. Do we want an undead kind of thing? All right, Hayden, you posted their brain dump in the first video comments. All right. Well, let me know what you think about this one once you get through it. Thanks for coming while you did, Hayden. I look forward to reading what you wrote. Hopefully it's all glowing praise. It's all good. It's all good. Let's see. So maybe one more. I'm cool with having a Djinn. I'll have to read up on kind of Djinn mythology to look besides. Just look beyond the Disney Aladdin movie version of a Djinn. And then do we want some kind of undead? I don't know what an undead entity would be because I don't want to step on too much in terms of clerics and kind of things clerics would worship. Oh, Don, this is Notion. This is Notion. Notion.so. It's you could pay for it, but you could basically they give you a lot of stuff for free. Just I think I'll say the one thing that sure. The one thing about it I will notice, maybe because I'm just using the free version, it doesn't exactly have robust output. I would love to be able to take all this stuff and print me up like a nice PDF or something. It doesn't. I don't think it really has ways to output it, but it gives you a lot of things that it kind of has nice, sort of pre-formatted in a visually decent way in terms of usability. So it's good for that. But I'm not sure what you do with it long term. And it's got collaborative stuff. If you want to collaborate with people, it also works good for that. Let's see. Lincoln says, I don't think it would step on clerics if you didn't allow the warlock to cast the unreversed spells. Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. Nothing says, patron a dead evil wizard sorcerer giving you power from the afterlife somehow for his own sinister purposes. Yeah, that stuff is fine. I don't want to, I'll have to put some note in here, but I think the idea is that you and the GM will agree to, we'll put a spirit, maybe I don't know, powerful spirit entity. The one thing I want to be aware of is that one of the problems that comes up with warlocks in 5th edition is that there can be differences in how the GM will perceives the relationship with the entity to what the player does. Right? So one person's this thing has got nefarious purposes and it's steering the warlock towards this, that. Someone else is thinking we made a one-time transaction and I'm not involved with that at all. So I don't want to, as much as, right, obviously a GM can always come in and change it. I don't want to plan on following one version of this or not. I kind of want to leave it open to, hey, however you at your game, you perceive this relationship to be, it is. And that all the stuff of how it works is kind of baked into the mechanics. How you're giving up, you're spending charisma, you have to get the charisma, right? All that stuff's that stuff is built in, right? And that becomes that framework core. And they don't have some other responsibility that nobody else has, right? Nobody else, I mean, maybe clerics do, depending on how closely your gods are communicating, but I want to keep it kind of open. And if as a player and a GM at the table, you want to create make it a real role-playing thing, great. If you want to keep your hands off, great. Either way, I think that mechanically the kind of balances and things are going to work, or, to the extent that they work at all. And then that other stuff can be kind of set. So I'm fine with having some kind of spirit entity, but I don't want to bake into the entity itself what that relationship is. I want people to be able to, people can do that themselves. As for Warlock patrons, old gods or primordial gods are my go-to. Yep, that's true. I do like primordial gods. The original spell that Black Tentacles comes from, or not Black Tentacles, whatever. What was it called? Ebony Tendrils. Okay. The source is World of Greyhawk, and it's granted by Nerul. Cool. All right, I think let's see. I got a few minutes here, so I'll fill out some more spells, but I think we can see the gist of where this is going, because I'm sure I'm not going to get into all of these. I'll put in some kind of... I like the idea of primordial god. Maybe one that's sort of outside, right? It's no longer worshipped, basically. I don't know. Powerful undead. All right, maybe something like that. We can definitely see where this is going. And so I kind of like the idea that you would, the first time you use one of these, you've got it, but then it's locked in for a day. Maybe for a day. Though that kind of breaks the pattern. I don't know. Now I'm starting to think back on that a little bit, because I like the pattern of having you not have to worry about stuff until you have to worry about it over the downtime. So I wonder if maybe it's probably okay that they can pick what they want. I guess maybe that's all right, because they don't have a big choice. I could even take a couple away from some of these. So I kind of want to keep it that they don't have multiple clocks to keep a hold of. Fluffy Grimmon says, always need a patron that's a giant, horrifying toad. Absolutely. But that could be a primordial god. It could be a powerful undead entity. That could almost be anything. The Fiend could take the shape of a powerful toad. Don says, primordial gods require sacrifice. Well, we got that. We actually got that. You might have missed that, Don, if you came in late, but I actually went over to get... you can either try to mitigate your spell costs or try to recover things by spending time on rituals, and those rituals you could make it even better by sacrificing either creatures or loot. So we got the sacrifices built in there pretty much regardless of whichever your entity is. Though it makes more sense that all of these are in some way twisted, because it would be hard for me to believe that some lawful good god or lawful god that is good would require sacrificial victims, but other ones certainly could. I might have to go through and fill these out. Now, nothing says Hypnotoad. Yep. And then you got a warning from Nightbot. Oh, that's funny. Nightbot's been in here. I don't think Nightbot has showed up once to do anything. I installed it after that horrible thing with Daniel from Bandit's Keep. We got spammed by just by horrible racists and stuff, or racist bots. But so I installed Nightbot, but Nightbot had just been sitting quietly, actually, to the point where I was wondering if Nightbot was actually installed, if I had made a mistake or something and it got uninstalled or something. But Nightbot came in with the hammer. Wow, Nightbot is ruthless. Absolutely. All right. Well, any last things here? Let me know in the comments. Should I just finish off this stuff myself? Would you be interested in a third part where we firm some of this up and get a playable prototype out of this? How do you guys feel about? Nightbot requires blood sacrifice. Absolutely. It's not the Nightbot we need, it's the Nightbot we deserve. It's been a while since I heard that meme. That's a good one. That's true. That's true. Nightbot, it can be a there we go. There we go. Nightbot is now an honorary patron. All right. So let me know. I'll leave the chat open for a couple more minutes, but let me know if you guys feel like you want to keep going with this in another session. Do you just want me to, or I can just kind of clean it up myself? If you have any ideas for these spells to fill them in on your way out the door. If you give a thumbs up, that would be awesome. And if you're not subscribed, why the heck aren't you subscribed? Oh yeah, silence spell, wherever silence falls in. Yeah, definitely silence for Nightbot. I'll just put in level 1 that we can move. But yeah, silence. Clairaudience. Absolutely. All right, folks. Let me know what you want to do. Today's Thursday, which means tomorrow is Friday, which means we'll be doing the OSR Reddit Roundup tomorrow. So, oh yeah, and hey, Don, I'm glad you think this is cool. Let me know if there's one we should do next. The Warlock just kind of came up on my radar from doing the OSR Reddit Roundups. So that just kind of sprung in my mind. But it'd be cool to do some other ones. And depending on how you guys... Linky says we got a pretty good foundation. We should move on to a new topic. I agree. I could polish this up and folks can take this and do whatever they like with it as well. But yeah, I totally agree. So hopefully I'll see folks tomorrow for the OSR Reddit Roundup. And yeah, let me know in the community tab and wherever what we should do next. Don says sorcerers will be cool. Ooh, that's interesting, right? Because then it becomes, how do we differentiate sorcerers from wizards and from now these warlocks? So something to think about. So yeah, let's think on it, and I'm open to other ideas as well. But anyway, let everyone get back to work, whatever they're doing, their day, night, whatever. Have a great rest of it, however you got left, and game on. And I'll talk to you later.